You've seen the title. And no, it is not clickbait. The Division 3 is officially in development. It will be developed by Massive Entertainment, just as with the previous two games. And yeah, no, that's all I have to share. That's the whole video. I've got no more details for you. I'll show some different posts here on the screen with some links in the description so you can check it out for yourself. But of course, as somebody who more or less built his entire online career with this franchise about 7 or 8 years ago now, and obviously still cares about it because about 6 months ago I couldn't help myself to make yet another Division video. Dude, you gotta let this shit go. It's dead. Ubisoft ain't ever... Sit the fuck down. We're back, baby. Woo! Well, I've got quite some things to say, even though we know very little about the game at this point. So if you all want to see how well I can stretch this 20-second news into an 8-minute video, don't worry, I got you covered. So first things first, right? One thing that popped into my head was, why now? Why are they starting to work on another Division now, when it seemed the franchise had been dead for, I don't know, at least 4 years already? And I say that, but that's not really true. What I meant to say is like in hibernation mode. I think that's a better wording for it. Ever since the release of that first DLC for The Division 2, Warlords of New York, I felt like Ubisoft kind of just put the franchise on hold. What happened is the DLC probably wasn't doing the numbers that they were hoping for. They were probably hoping it would be similar to Destiny, but Destiny at that time was already a much bigger game. And they were just like, okay, we give up. Time to move on to something else. We of course did have the announcement of Division Heartlands at some point, but what has it been, like 3 years later now? That game is still not finished. And given the fact that it reuses a lot of Division 2 assets, it's not a good sign. Either they have like 5 people working on this game, or they're in some serious trouble right now and they just don't know how to push out the finished product. It's probably got something to do with the fact that Battle Royales were really hot 5 years ago, or 4 years ago. But as of late, they've been on a bit of a decline. So now are they gonna push this spin-off game that is essentially a Battle Royale spin-off game mode? How are they going to push that out, right? What are they going to do with it? This is why I always tell my friends that this game is never going to come out, because the thing that made it fresh has already been overdone so much in this industry that it's not going to work anymore, I think. Then there's also the mobile game, which I don't know much about. I don't really care for mobile gaming, but from what I've seen, it's more or less a port of the Division 1 just for mobile, so I'm not really interested. So with all of that, why now? Why, after all these years of neglect and just not really doing anything with the franchise, why go for another game now? Well, I think for starters, the answer is pretty simple, and it's because Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. This is a video game currently also in development at Massive Entertainment, and that game is coming out December this year, which means that when that game releases, a lot of developers working at Massive need a new project to work on. Could they also move to the Star Wars game that they're currently working on? Maybe. Sure, but according to Google, there's about 750 people working at Massive still. And even though I'm sure not all of those are developers, that's still a lot of people for one project. Second reason is that Ubisoft has probably realized that having a solid foot in the door in looter shooters or in the live service genre is probably going to be a good idea in the long run, even if that foot isn't going to be as big as the foot that Bungie has. If you really think about it, Ubisoft hasn't been doing too well. Their stock is way down. Some of the games and projects that were currently in development, they're having massive issues or they're outright being cancelled. And Ubisoft even announced that they're going to not focus on those side projects anymore and instead pull it back all the way to the big IPs. Previously, this appeared to be Assassin's Creed, you know, the Far Cry's, but the decision has been made that Division would fit into that as well. And now that announcement that they had, the special Division stream, it all starts to make a little more sense. I don't know if anybody watched it, but about 4 months ago, there was this special live stream where a bunch of Division developers showed off a big bag of nothing, is what I'm gonna say it. We saw some more Heartlands gameplay. Again, I don't believe that game is ever gonna come out. We saw more about the mobile spin-off, but that live stream was also front-loaded with a bunch of seemingly very mediocre DLC for the Division 2. Like, it was clear they weren't going to have any big yearly DLC like, for example, Destiny would have. At least that's the impression that I got. But it was also obvious that it was a little bit more than just seasonal content rehash. There was a lot here that would actually require some manpower. and given how little updates The Division 2 has had in the past few years, I just didn't really understand. Surely they don't think that that was going to bring back The Division 2, right? But now with the announcement of a third Division mainline game, I'm starting to get it. They're not creating and releasing all this DLC for The Division 2 to bring back The Division 2. They're not going to release Heartlands and think that that is going to be some crazy smash hit. They're going to use these two games as a gateway and a build-up to the third mainline game. That is why all of a sudden they had that live stream. It's to get people a little bit warm again, a little bit warmed up to the franchise. They're trying to at least stay on people's minds, while it's still probably a lot of years away that this third Division game actually comes out. This is the way I see it. I could be wrong, but if I'm right, that also means that this decision doesn't really come out of the blue. Like, it's been on Ubisoft's mind to do something with this franchise for a while already. It's just now the first time that we're hearing about this. Again, probably because Avatar is almost finished, and they sort of publicly want to announce what Massive is going to work on next. And that's another thing, actually, that I've seen around a little bit here and there, maybe still from the very old player base that holds a little bit of a grudge, or I don't know what the right word for it is. I've seen some people asking the question, why Massive Entertainment? It maybe comes from a little bit of resentment, because of course both the Division 1 and the Division 2 had quite a few issues throughout its lifespan. And especially because I've been on that side of the conversation for sure in the past, I just wanted to give my take on that as well. To be completely honest, I am very happy that Massive is developing this next one, if all goes true. And the main reason for that is because of the experience that they now have with this franchise. I mean, if you just take one look at the studio's track record, you'll find that before the Division 1, they didn't really have any big hitters. They developed World in Conflict and they did some Far Cry 3 multiplayer stuff. There's a Just Dance title there, but nothing as big and as complex as a live service looter shooter with both PvE and PvP. So it shouldn't really have come as a surprise that the Division 1 lacked a lot of content at launch and that Massive was severely underprepared to handle such a game properly. And then I think with the Division 2, they only had about 2 years to develop that game. And it essentially got pushed out by Ubisoft because they wanted another Division game to be released that year. At the core, Division 2 was very much a response to the shortcomings of the Division 1. But of course, with not enough time to properly, balance and fine-tune things, a lot of those responses were very overdone and came at the cost of many other parts of the game. So both the Division 1 and the Division 2 had their own issues, but there are legitimate reasons for it, and you can't really blame the developers too much there. I've been very harsh in the past, but not once in all those years that I covered the game was I under the impression that the developers didn't want a better game. It was just always a matter of inexperience, time, or resources. But now they have the experience, and I'm also very confident that they will be given the time and the resources with this next game. And I can say that with a little bit more certainty because of the drastic shift in Ubisoft's behavior towards its studios in the past few years. Essentially, all of the Ubisoft games have been delayed, sometimes multiple times over, to put the quality first. Of course, it doesn't mean that every game is gonna be a smash hit. Some projects are just doomed to fail, let's be honest. But the way that Ubisoft handles the studios working on these games is very different than that it was just 5 years ago. So, with all of that being said, how am I feeling about all of this news? Well, obviously, I guess I am a little bit excited, which is why I'm making a video to begin with, right? I don't really do videos on news anymore because a lot of gaming news I just don't really care about. But this, I just felt like I had to cover because there's a lot of history there with this franchise on my channel. And even though with the Division 2, I was kind of getting a little bit tired, I had some franchise fatigue maybe. Also in part because, again, the Division 2 wasn't all that different from Division 1. It was just better in some areas, worse in some other areas, and I was just kind of done with it. But it's been a long time now, okay? I've essentially turned into a Destiny YouTuber for about 3 years. Then I got tired of that game, and now I'm trying, with the focus on trying here to make it on YouTube by just posting these one-off videos that I think could be interesting, not only to watch, but also to work on. And I gotta say, I think I would be ready to jump back into a proper Division game for maybe a couple years, given that the game is good, of course. If that wasn't obvious already, go watch the Division video that I made 6 months ago, where I basically try to do a little push at the end of the video there to see if I can get anyone at Ubisoft to go out there and try to make another game. So yeah, this channel is not suddenly gonna start pumping out Division videos, making a wish list of the things that I would like to see most. I am doing other things now, and this is so far away. All I'll say is that I just hope that the game is going to be fun. Just make it fun, because if it's fun, it doesn't really matter if the game has some issues here and there. You know, if it's fun, then people will keep playing it. That's what I kind of missed with the Division 2. Like, it was more balanced and it had more content, but it wasn't necessarily as fun. And I mean, if you look at Destiny survived and thrived all those years because the gameplay is fun and engaging. Not because it had so much content on launch or because every DLC has been such a banger. Yet people still keep playing it. So that's my one wish for a fun game. So yeah, that would be all for today. That's a little bit longer than 8 minutes. Really outdid myself here. What a great YouTuber I am. Anyway, that was it. Bye guys. Bye.